Please welcome to the stage Chairman and CEO of AppDirect, Nicolas Desmarais.
Welcome to Thrive 2024. We're thrilled to have you here for our first conference in 5 years. The majority of our team joined in those short years, and we have more than tenfold our partner community in those years. And today, I want to take us back on a journey to where it all started, through what we've accomplished together over the years, and to our vision for the future of B2B commerce. So, 15 years ago, in our founding year, we noticed a pattern emerging. This was 2009, that as goods and services moved online, a pattern emerged where consumption consolidated through points of aggregation. You think of shoes to Zappos, books to Amazon, or all these other categories where marketplaces emerged to facilitate the process of finding, buying, and using these goods and services. But there was an exception to this rule. We noticed that no marketplace emerged when it came to facilitate the process of finding and buying and managing, procuring software as a service. And that created a level of complexity that we would never tolerate in the physical world. Imagine you're an Uber driver, and you go out to purchase a car. In a sense, that's the technology stack that you will run your business on. And you find that perfect car. And then the dealer says, you know, you can't drive off with it. Actually, you're going to have to go and get all the components separately, and then get a systems integrator. And then you won't get secure access to your car unless you go get an identity and access management solution. And you won't know how fast you're going unless you go get a data visualization solution. And so this complexity creates a very high search and transaction cost of finding, buying, and managing these technology solutions. When we studied this all these years back, we found that just on the find side, that it took businesses often up to 6 months to select the right solution for their company. And on the buy side, we found that the lack of having to manage all these subscriptions across all these different account portals, that leads for companies with over 500 employees to over, on average, $8 million wasted a year on unused licenses. And what's more, having to manage countless invoices and payment instruments across all these billing portals, that leads to 40% of companies having to pay late fees, often on those unused subscriptions, or at least not fully used. And then on the managed side, you have password proliferation, where having to manage all these passwords across apps and across your users, that creates support costs. 20 to 50% of these support calls are from password resets at $70 a pop. That adds up. And then on the data side, these data silos, it's estimated that across the workforce, 20% of time is spent trying to find information. And our hypothesis in 2009 was that 3 trends were going to exponentially elevate these search and these transaction costs. The first of these was because of Moore's law, the decline in the cost of compute. When you think back to 1980, where the first Macintosh could process 10 calculations per second per dollar. And by the time we found AppDirect in 2009, machines like, let's say, IBM Blue Gene could process about 1 million. And we found that staggering. In the last 14 years, 15, we now have machines that can process over 100 billion calculations per second per dollar, which is absolutely incredible. And that is relevant because as the cost of compute comes down, the cost of producing applications also comes down. The barriers to entries collapse, and therefore you get an explosion in the number of enterprise apps. And so when we found AppDirect, we noticed in the last 10 years that it went from a handful to thousands. And that matters because for marketplace, you need aggregation effect, you need enough inventory. And back then, there just weren't that many SaaS apps. Again, that number has grown tenfold in the last 15 years. And with the explosion in the number of applications, you get data, a lot more of it. In the 80s, you had a handful of exabytes being produced every year worldwide. That went to thousands by the time we founded AppDirect. And incredibly, that has more than 100-fold, almost 200-fold in the last 15 years. And so the reason why this is relevant is because the hypothesis was that this explosion in the number of apps and the data that they generate would demand a new way of finding, buying, and managing technology services. And that was part of the founding thesis. And so we set out to combine subscription billing with commerce. At the time, there were e-commerce companies, there were billing companies, but actually none that really combined those effectively. To become the first B2B subscription commerce platform to facilitate the finding, buying, and managing of technology services. And we decided to go out all these years back and validate this product market fit by surveying business owners. And in these conversations, we found that indeed, they really did value the idea of unifying the procurement experience for reasons that spanned the entire buyer's journey, from buying to onboarding to ongoing support. But one critical insight that was actually not baked in the survey really jumped out at us. And that was that when you look at these criteria, from assisted sales, implementation, training, single SLA, security assurance, centralized support, they all rely on human interaction, the human element. And this is why, from day one, we set out to build a B2B subscription commerce platform for finding, buying, and managing technologies through your partner of choice. We call that relationship-driven commerce. Because at AppDirect, we believe that technology plus people is a lot more powerful than technology minus people. Where some companies like Amazon might view human interaction as a defect, as a bug to fix, we view relationships as the absolute core feature of AppDirect that we celebrate. And so, inspired by Apple's App Store that launched about a year before founding and the iOS experience, we created the AppDirect platform that combines a marketplace for monetizing digital services to lower your customer cost of acquisition with a workspace for unifying billing, identity, and data management to improve lifetime value of your customer relationship. This was built from the ground up for the subscription economy. And so it took us about a year to build that first version. And then the goal was to empower companies around the world to be able to launch their commerce experiences, and we dreamed of growth. But reality had a lot more to teach us. The realities I remember very well the night of that first marketplace launch, clicking that refresh button, hoping for that first user, that first order to come through, and it never came. And so we learned the hard way that it takes more than a great product to build a great technology company. So we decided to go back to the drawing board, take a step back and ask ourselves, what does it take for a company to thrive in the digital economy? And so in doing so, we decided to go back and study the titans of technology and try to discover what are their shared keys to success. And it's worth noting that when you look at these companies, that they've had, over the last 15 years, amazing success. They've outperformed the S&P 500 by over 300%. Now, of course, looking back, it's almost self-evident that these companies would have done so well. So what we did for this presentation is we took a control group, and we looked at B2B technology companies that had over 10 billion in enterprise value 10 years ago that most underperformed. This latter group underperformed by 70%. And we found that indeed those learnings that we had from years ago from these companies hold true today, and they all share 4 digital keys to success that the control group does not share. Digital platform, the first of these keys. Develop your platform as a service for companies to build new products and experiences on top of your infrastructure. These companies all shifted from a monolithic architecture to a service-oriented one to offer their economies of scale as a service to third parties. And this is important because competitive dynamics are reshaping the economic curves upon which businesses are founded. If you take revenue as the y-axis, companies as the x-axis, sorted from highest to biggest to smallest, most markets are dominated by a long-tail curve. And so, in most markets, 2 things are or will happen. First is that the cost curve comes down as technology democratizes economies of scale. And because of that, the second thing is that the revenue curve flattens and moves down with increased competition, segmenting markets with increasingly focused value propositions. And so this means that while vertical scaling worked really well in the traditional economy, it doesn't work as well in the digital economy because the new curves limit vertical growth. Now, it's important to note, it doesn't mean that the total addressable market is necessarily smaller, it's just shared among many more companies. So the key from these 2 shifts is to shift from vertical to horizontal scaling by aggregating the functions that are required to serve a sector. Therefore, by becoming a platform, you reduce that cost curve so that new entrants can come in and then you take percentage of every sale. Let's take Airbnb. They reduce the cost curve for anyone to enter the hospitality space and take a percentage of every booking. And this is why, and it is relevant to almost any market because as software eats the world, this impacts almost every industry. And this is why when you look at these digital winners in each of the spaces, they tend to be these multi-sided platforms that invite third parties to develop inventory, to sell inventory, and to consume inventory on top of that platform. And that's why these companies all share something in common. They own no inventory, right? No rooms, no cars, no content. And this horizontal scaling is part of the reason why they've achieved such success over the last 10 years. And so day 1, from this learning, we made a major shift whereby we made sure, and while this is more expensive in the short run, it pays off in the long run, is to make sure that all of our technologies are available as a platform as a service. That all our technology is API addressable. And on top of these APIs, we built storefront builders, invoice editors, notification editors, and of course, all of it is accessible through our developer center. And with that, we're incredibly proud that we now have leading brands all around the world that are launching marketplaces on top of AppDirect and building their own commerce journeys. We now power, through our platform, over 3 billion API calls a year. That is over 300,000 API calls by the time this presentation is over. Developer ecosystem. So developer ecosystem is the next key, and that's all about the ability to onboard and be able to monetize and distribute third-party developers and vendors. And again here, the top performers shine. They have these vibrant developer communities with over 70,000 developers on average, when the bottom performers have under 1,000. And this is relevant because as you shift from centralized to decentralized value creation, this gives you all an opportunity to grow revenue, retain revenue. Cloud GMV through vendor ecosystems powered by marketplaces is growing at 80% per year. that is staggering. And when you sell and bundle in third-party applications, you get a 5% improvement in retention, which compounds over time, leading to 25% improvement in profitability. Because it is a lot more expensive to acquire a new customer than to retain one. And so we've made this shift from day one. I still remember with Andy Sen making the decision in 2010 that we were going to build a developer center that would help automate the onboarding and the integrating and the publishing of developers and vendors across our marketplaces so that all of our partners could benefit from that and expand their portfolios. And of course, true to that first key, this is available as a platform, so we now have amazing companies around the world for which we are powering a white-labeled version of our developer center experience. And so now we have over 29,000 technology services across our marketplaces, across categories like connectivity, mobility, SaaS, infrastructure as service, and many more. And this translates into the success of our partners. When we look at our partners across the board, from marketplace owners to our advisors, when we graphed it out, we see 2 to 3 times sales increase for every category added to the portfolio. And this category expansion results in GMV expansion. We're proud to share that AppDirect has enjoyed 33% compounded growth over the last 5 years from a gross merchandising value sell-through perspective, which is 50% more than the fastest growing category that we compete in, SaaS. Now, the next digital key, digital channel. This is about growing efficiently through channel partners. Here again, the top performers, on average, have over 25,000 partners, either referral or reseller. And the bottom have only 4,000. And so this shift from direct to indirect go-to-market is really important because it offers better payback. Companies that have mature channel programs versus the ones that do not at all, on average enjoy 2x the growth rate, 50% reduction in customer cost of acquisition, and on top of that, a 2x improvement in lifetime value to customer cost of acquisition. That is a 2 times improvement in your return on investment on sales and marketing dollars. And so we've made this shift early on by really investing deeply into our referral and reseller partner platform to ease the onboarding and all the back office tools like quoting, ordering, commissioning, and countless other tools, as well as sales enablement functions. And again, true to that first key, we build this as a platform so that we now have partners that are white labeling this experience, have launched their own partner programs to manage their sub-agents and their referral and reseller partners. We now have signed up over the last 5 years about 10,000 or over 10,000 technology advisors. But what we're most proud of are the results. That of those advisors, the monthly active ones, over 20% of those are achieving over $1 million of billed gross merchandising value a year. Now that is a huge number, right? Our benchmark, Amazon, only 2.5% of their sellers achieve over $1 million billed a year. Digital Hub, the fourth key. Unify billing, identity, and data management to become the center of your customer's digital experience. Here again, the leaders, these top performers, all have unified payment, identity, and data systems, whereby the 40%, whereas the bottom performers, 40% of bottom ranked have an incomplete digital hub. And again, shifting from a fragmented to unified experience, that leads to better retention as you offer unified payments. It offers, as you offer customer identity management to your clients, you get a 60% reduction in support tickets. As you offer data management tools like search across apps for your clients, you get a 15% improvement in customer satisfaction score. And so we've invested in this shift by investing in our billing capabilities, by making sure that your clients can benefit, if you so choose, to offer them unified invoicing, payment management, subscription management. We've invested in our identity management capabilities to make sure that your clients can benefit from unified single sign-on or access management. And we've invested in data management so that if you want, you can make available universal search across applications to your end clients. We now have over 6 million business subscribers worldwide that benefit from these unified experiences through our partners. And so these digital keys matter to us mostly because they add value to our key stakeholders, to our providers that develop and invoice for technology services, to our advisors that refer and are trusted partners to the buyers, and of course to the buyers that procure through our partners and advisors. And this creates a flywheel where the more providers that join the AppDirect network, they add value to our advisors who want to expand their portfolios. And the more advisors that join, that brings tremendous value to the buyers who value the trusted service assurance and their expertise. And the more buyers that join, that incentivizes providers to join who want to tap into the AppDirect network effect. And this flywheel is accelerating because the same 3 trends that we identified all these years back, over the next 10 years, we're expecting at least 30 to 50% further reduction in compute. I would imagine quite a bit more than that, actually. Then you got 500% more cloud market growth, and they're anticipating 10x more data being generated each year versus where we're at now. And if data is the oil to this new economy, then its engine undoubtedly is AI. We're undergoing an economic revolution spawned by AI evolution. And with the cost of compute going down, the amount of computing power being invested in AI models is growing at a staggering exponential pace. So much so that it's hard to really conceptualize the magnitude of these numbers. So I think one way of looking at it and conceptualizing this is as we invest more compute, you get bigger models. In fact, these models have grown by 2 million% over 5 years. It's hard to get your head around that, right? We now have models of over 1 trillion parameters. 1 trillion, right? That is 10 times more than we have neurons in our brain. That is more than there are stars in our galaxy. Like, these are incredible numbers that have consequence. And what it means is that the capabilities are improving dramatically across elements of intelligence like perception, communication, reasoning, acting, performing tasks. And picture tells a million words, but if we just take one of these, IQ. The top performing AIs 6 years ago were below that of a 6-year-old. Now they pass the bar exam with over 99% accuracy. And so what does this all mean? Well, for one, when you look at test scores of AI systems on various capabilities relative to human performance, where human performance as the benchmark is set to 0, from reading to reasoning, AIs are competitive with humans, in some cases exceeding. And so this leads to gains in productivity and becomes very relevant to our IT environment that we all work in. It is estimated that 30% of labor time will be automated almost across every department. Honestly, when I first read this over 6 months ago, I didn't totally believe it. I absolutely believe it today. And it's worth noting that that's honestly a bad thing. I know there's a lot of doomsayers, but that means that we're all 30% more efficient. That means that we get tasks done in 30% less time. It means we're 30% more productive. And it's worth noting that over the last decades and centuries, every time productivity per capita improves by step function, you get economic surplus, and that improves the standard of living. So at AppDirect, we're very optimistic about this. And it's not, ultimately, this productivity translates into economic gains that are all very relevant to all of us here in the IT sector. And that's that the AI market is poised to grow from 40 billion to over $1 trillion, with 25% of that coming from the software layer. So it's not just infrastructure as a service. And that's a 40% CAGR. You know, we haven't seen growth rates like that since the inception of the cloud market when we found AppDirect. In 2009, the total cloud market for SaaS, PaaS, infrastructure service was about $9 billion, and now it's about 300 billion and more. So it's gone to hundreds of billions, incredible growth rate. And it's worth noting, it's not just about the quantitative story, it's about the qualitative experience. Technology evolves in this pattern, from complex systems to standalone appliances to interoperable features, right? Think of music enjoyed in an orchestra, music enjoyed on a boombox, standalone appliance, or as a feature on your phone. And so I say this because the next phase of IT evolution, we believe, is upon us, where in the last decades we moved from complex on-prem systems to standalone cloud applications. But the next few years, we're about to undergo another shift where these applications become consumed as interoperable AI features. So what does that mean? Imagine an application really becoming the acquired skill of your enterprise AI. So what is this AI-first IT stack that we're all going to work in going to look like? Well, the first layer, the cloud application layer, we're all familiar with, but ultimately, thinking of it a little different. It's all about generating and structuring data. And then you have the cloud lifecycle management layer that organizes that data and makes it through, let's say, identity management, for example, data management, accessible to the large language models. And those large language models gain their direction and purpose from the AI conversational UX layer. And that means that we shift from consumerization of IT to humanization of IT. So what is humanization of IT? It is not less technology, but it is smarter technology. It is more immersive technology. Imagine a world where to create a lead in your CRM, today, most of us, I use a mouse, I use a keyboard, I use a PC, I use an operating system, a single sign-on system to get into CRM to input a lead. But the UX of tomorrow is simply state, create a lead. And so again, it's all about taking these steps out of the equation to make it more natural so that we could get on with our day and our tasks. But again, not less technology, just smarter technology. And so for this humanization of IT to really take hold over the next few years, a series of problems need solving. AIs need to move from generalist capabilities to specialist capabilities because AIs perform better on a specific scope, from technical creation to self-service creation, because we want to empower everyone to be able to create their own AIs, from shallow data pools to deep data pools so you can make it your own with your enterprise data, from isolated interactions to social interactions, because collaboration matters, from consumer first and public to enterprise first and private, because security is paramount, and from limited inconvenient access to extensible convenient access so you can embed AIs in your everyday workflows. And so to help address these problems and find solutions, we're incredibly excited to share our AppDirect AI, our marketplace and creation studio, which firstly allows deployment within the enterprise environment so that any of your clients can benefit from a deployed version, white label version of this, whereby employees in any department can then create their AIs. They can set the context, pick their large language model of choice so that you can monetize large language models, and then connect the knowledge base of your enterprise, whether it be through SaaS apps, cloud storage, or uploading documentation. And we even enable the team members or the creators of AIs to fine-tune the personality. And so you can then share these AIs seamlessly with your colleagues or with your clients. You can then browse the AIs of your team members or the ones curated by company admins. And then you can obviously chat with AIs. All the latest large language models are on it. Collaborate and toggle between them. So why is this relevant to all of us here? Well, for providers, it means that you can integrate to our APIs. We have some integrations underway, which we're very excited about, which allows for listing provider AIs to our advisor community. And they can then benefit from tools like pre- and post-sale support, service availability, and other tools that benefit our advisor community. For advisors, you benefit from recommendations, from service availability, for example, through these integrations we spoke about, quoting and ordering. And I think most importantly, we're doing this to offer you a path to monetizing large language models. We know that the AI market, everyone's telling us it's exploding, but how do we monetize it, right? That's what we care about, and that's why we made these investments. Customers, your end customers can benefit from experiences whereby there's this humanization of IT, where if you want to create a lead, query that lead, or be notified of its progress through the funnel, you can do that through speech. And over time, AIs are gaining initiative. And what I mean by that is the ability to take on multi-step projects. As the industry invests in the memory faculties, reasoning, and multi-agent systems underpinning these AIs. And of course, all this is available as a platform. And we have the APIs available, the React components, and the documentation so that our platform clients can also take this and make it their own and embed it in their commerce journeys. So with that, I'd love to welcome up Andy Sen, our CTO, and Piyush Patel, our head of product, to talk about all the really exciting investments that we're making in each of these categories.